Eve, turn on the camera.
Turning on camera.
No. Not that one. The one for the video essay.
Turning on camera for the video essay.
Thank you, Eve. Ugh, robots, they're useless, am I right? But where would we be without them? Dead, I suppose. And unable to do anything. I mean, it's devastating. I can't even work out all of my fancy electronic weaponry without having to ask for this robot to activate it for me. If she died, man, I don't know what I would do.
You would be virtually incapacitated.
Such an attitude. My name is Zigzag, quite frankly. People call me Ziggy, Zigmaster, Z, Z-Woman, Z-Man, Z-Bot, whatever you want. Quite frankly, I don't care what you call me. You see what I live in? You see this mess behind me? Well, this is what Earth looks like now. Dark, decrepit, depressing, cyberpunk. I've actually gutted out an old subway, as I think they used to call it, and turned it into my home. Even got some drapes for the curtains. The term cyberpunk was... Oh, wait. Eve, where are my glasses?
Locating glasses.
You know I'm blind. Eve. Eve? Oh. Well, that's quite better. The term cyberpunk was coined in 1980, a short story called Cyberpunk by Bruce Bilk. He later won the Philip K. Dick Award for a short story by the name of Head Crash in '95. But we're not here to talk about a man with alliteration in his name. And I'm sure Bruce has many more short stories to offer us, but we're here to talk about cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is a science fiction subgenre dealing with the integration of society and technology in a dystopian setting. To dumb it down for you idiots, you got your cyber, your electronic, your AI, your big computers, and you got your punk, your dystopian themes, your anarchy, your, burn the patriarchy, your revolution. That's the essentials of cyberpunk. Excuse me. It's often referred to as low life and high tech. Cyberpunk stories deal with outsiders, punks like me, who fight against the oppressors in society, usually major, big, mega corporations who want to take all of our money, or our blood, or our humanity. And via technological means, aka the cyber and cyberpunk. If the punks aren't actively fighting against a megacorp, they're still dealing with living in a world completely dependent on high technology. The history of this bleak and cunning genre begins in the 60s. The new wave science fiction movement was booming, and new magazines like New World, founded in Britain, were searching for newer and weirder art. As you may have heard many people say, I have just got to make weirder art. That's what people wanted to do. They needed to get sillier, stranger, and punkier, as I say. These people, man, they were thirsty. They wanted drugs, they wanted sex, they wanted to overthrow the government, they wanted post-modernity. You get what I'm saying? New writing styles and archetypes were developed. And here's when we see a lot of dystopian and post-apocalyptic works, some of my favorites, to be honest. Some writers that you see popping up during this time, the new wave, include Roger Zelazny, it's a funny name you got there, mister, J.G. Ballard, Philip Jose Farmer, Samuel R. Delany, and, the love of my life, Harlan Ellison. Some credit to Judge Dredd's appearance in the 1977 edition of the 2000 AD comic to be one of the first pieces of the cyberpunk genre, as his character features a gun with a modern fingerprint technology. He just puts his little finger on it and boom, all of his guns go pow pow. a motorcycle with a machine gun, as well as a fully capable AI that can respond to orders from him. However, Samuel R. Delaney's Nova, published in 1968, is seen as one of the first official cyberpunk pieces, which features human interfacing with computers and the usage of my darling AI.
Me?
No, I am aware that you are here, Eve. You don't have to be so standoffish. Where was I? Which features human interfacing with computers and the usage of AI, something the media hadn't really ever seen before. I mean, come on, it's 68. Computers were just beginning to boom around then. People didn't really understand stuff like AI yet. But these psychotics, they dared to write about them. The Wonderful and the Great Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, also published in 1968. Debatably, one of the most important pieces in the entire science fiction genre. It covers the ethical and moral issues with a cyber-related world, really digging into that dystopia that I mentioned a lot earlier. It was made into Blade Runner, one of the first cyberpunk films, later on in the late 90s, which I have never seen. Cyberpunk has its roots in the styles of the 80s. Think neon lights, Japanese city punk, consumerism, etc., etc. The internet was just being born, and fears of the internet and mega corporations were just becoming more and more prevalent. You got consumerism, advertisements. God, every time you open your phone nowadays, it's just ads in your face. What if it takes over all life? What if people begin to believe the scream and the internet more over real life sources? Cough, cough. What if we become so addicted to it that it rules our lives and we are unable to separate ourselves from a mirage of screens? Things of that nature. Some of the first accepted publications in the cyberpunk genre will include the one and only Neuromancer by William Gibson himself, seen as one of the pioneers. This piece was published in 1984. You're going to see that the 80s is when we're really getting into this subgenre. Akira by, excuse my butchering of this name, Katshiro Otomo in 1982. It's a manga. I've heard very good things about it. That Blade Runner film that I talked about earlier by Ridley Scott, the director. It was first in box offices in 1982. And we got My Love, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. It's more post-apocalyptic, but a lot of people vouch for it to be in the cyberpunk genre because of the themes of morality and etc. I mean, like I said, it's got that cyberness and it's got that punkness, so technically fits. And you also got Nova by Samuel R. Delaney in the same year that My Love came out. The genre has been changed over time a lot with advancements in technology. While print media is still being published, we've seen a huge takeover with audio-visual media, such as games and films. Your top ones are going to be Cyberpunk 2077, hit blockbuster game that failed. But I'm not a gamer, per se. We've got modern cyberpunk stories from places like Tor.com and smaller publishing houses. It's not as big of a thing as it was during the big science fiction wave, but it is still very prevalent, and it's amazing to see the places that people can go with this genre, seeing as we're really in the midst of the internet takeover. And personally, one of my favorites, the Love, Death, and Robots video anthology, which is, I believe, in its 3rd season. Please go support all of the beautiful animators that have been working on that piece. We're starting to see it a lot in fashion as well as in the music industry with the introduction of synthwave. It's a subgenre of electronic music. Think darkness, think vaporwave, think Windows 96 if you've ever heard of that. I should put some examples up on the screen, but think very old, nostalgic, late night driving, the weekends after hours. And you've got a lot of techwear fashion brands plaguing the internet, selling black cargo pants with a bunch of straps, utility boots, things of that nature. None of them look as good as me though, right, Eve? That's what I thought. The overall aesthetic has a lot of black, a lot of neon colors, pinks, purples, a lot of contrast. As well, as long as you've got, you know, white against black and pink against purple, then, you know, you've got cyberpunk. It's got that futuristic feeling, and unlike other subgenres, it is completely not retro-futuristic. I'm sure there are people out there that have put that spin on this work, but most of the time, the cyberpunk genre is seen as hyper futuristic. In videos and audiovisual media, you've got a lot of glitch effects, think of the Matrix, a lot of techwear. Is often inspired by the boundaries between the online world, warfare, and fashion, and it's made to serve the individual. So another one of those themes that we still have today in the cyberpunk subgenre is individualism, you know, being who you want. For example, in an episode of Love, Death, and Robots, The Witness, the protagonist is this woman, and she, you know, her makeup is smeared, she looks very individualistic, very opinionated, and that's a lot of what we like to see in cyberpunk. A lot of the characters are just they're just works of art, truly. So a strange twist that many people have argued is that cyberpunk is losing its punkiness over time. Anthony Gramagula on the CPR magazine states the following. Ghost in the Shell, one of the most well-known cyberpunk animes of all time, romanticizes and gives excuses for its authority figure, Section 9, instead of tearing it to shreds and pointing out the flaws in it. There is a shifting focus on style and not punk, as seen in cyberpunk films like Hardware, Freejack, and Armitage III. The novel Snow Crash, just the same. End quote. William Gibson, a pioneer for the genre, as I stated earlier, tweeted in 2018 on everyone's favorite bird app that the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077 was, quote, GTA skinned over with a generic 80s retro future theme, but hey, that's just me, end quote. A user by the name of @WeirdGirlElderwitch Cafe quote tweeted, "When Gibson thinks your cyberpunk dystopia is weak, you have bleeped up," end quote. So those are just a few of the critiques that people now, especially bigger people, have on the idea of the genre. Now let's get into our influential creators of the subgenre. I will be going over, I believe, 3 creators for this subgenre, and we're gonna start with the bold, the beautiful, the classic, William Gibson. Where would cyberpunk be without this mad lad? So he was born in March of 1949, an American and a Canadian, and he's still alive as we speak. So, you know, send him an email. I'm sure he'll be happy to respond to you. His writing career began with many short stories in the 70s, right around the boom of the new science fiction wave. He's also an essayist. He's the author of Neuromancer, which is regarded as one of the founding pieces of not only the subgenre, but cyberpunk in general. He's won the Nebula, Hugo, and the Philip K. Dick Award, all for Neuromancer. So, what can I say? The novel Neuromancer is also part of the Sprawl trilogy, and he's also written the Bridge trilogy, which spanned from 1993 to 99. I am not sure that he's still putting out works, but, you know, he's an elder. He's an elder witch. Next, we're gonna get into my favorite, absolutely, my man, Harlan Ellis. Moment of silence for our Harlan Ellis, please. Whew, So he was born on May 27th of 1934, making him a Gemini, as I am. In June, he died actually on June 28th of 2018, so not very long ago. And he was part of the New Wave. He was born to a Jewish family, and he was also born in Ohio, which we know isn't a real place. So I guess he was born in the void. He ran away from home, you know. Ellis, I love Ellis because he was a problem child, you know? Like, he ran away from home. He described himself as a Jewish atheist, which, as I present as neither of those, I am not sure if that's a thing or not, but he got a lot of looks for it for sure. He attended Ohio State University for 18 months, and you're never gonna guess why that he was expelled. He was expelled, right, from Ohio University after 18 months because a writing professor was like, oh, your writing isn't good. You know, he was putting shade on his writing ability, and he hit him, so he was expelled. And over the next 20 or so years, he proceeded to send that professor a copy of every story he had ever published. Mind you, this is one of the biggest science fiction authors ever, so I'm sure that professor is rolling in his grave right now. Yes, I'm assuming it was a man. Ellison was hired as a writer for Walt Disney Studios, but he was fired on his first day after Roy O. Disney himself overheard him in the studio commissioning talking about making an explicit animated film featuring Disney characters. I think that gives you a little bit of insight into Ellison's psyche. He has written over 1,700 short stories, screenplays, essays, critics, and screenplays. I said screenplays twice. Yes, I am aware. Wow. He's also written on a screenplay for the episode of The City of the Edge of Forever on the famous science fiction show Star Trek. And he has won 8, yes, you heard me, 8 Hugo Awards. And he has worked on the 80s version of The Twilight Zone. You know, the love that show. So cool. His works include The Bold, the Beautiful, and the Wonderful. This is an anthology of his work that I've been devouring. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream from 1976. Repent, Harley Quinn, so the TikTok Man from 1965. A Boy and His Dog, which was a 1969 novella adapted to film in 1975. So Harlan has had quite the life out there. Gotta go visit his grave one day. You know, every friend group has its stoner, and ours today is gonna be Philip K. Dick, who happens to have the silliest name out of all 3 of these men that we'll be talking about today. So he was born on December 16th, 1928, and he passed on March 2nd of 1982. It's a little 28, 82. I thought that was cool. He's written 44 novels and over 121 short stories. Wow. How does one write that much? He was born in Chicago, and he began publishing stories when he was 23. So he got kind of a later start than a lot of other authors do, you know. Usually authors will be like, oh, I started writing when I was 6 months old. No, it took him a minute to publish. He was even friends with the author Ursula K. Le Guin. Excuse me for mispronouncing their name. The author of Those Who Walk Away from Omelas. Moment of silence. His very first story, Rogue, R-O-O-G, don't know how to pronounce that, was published in 1951 when he was only 22. Wait a minute, that's contradictory. Supposedly it's about a dog who imagined that the garbage men who came every morning were stealing valuable food from him. So, a little dystopian, not exactly cyberpunk, but he'll get there eventually. He often explores themes of drug abuse, theology, reality, other paranoid fiction. He was an addict himself, and a lot of that reflects in his work. So, yeah, it's always the psychotics. Films based on his works include Blade Runner, 1982, Total Recall, 1990, and readapted in 2012, a Minority Report in 2002, A Scanner Darkly in in 2006, I'm assuming I misspelled that, and many others. He tragically tried to end his own life in 1972 from an overdose of, actually, no, I'm not going to tell you because seasonal depression era is here. He has a history of drug abuse, hallucinations, all the good things, and he was married 5 times. He loves to talk about what's real and what's unreal, perception, under mind-bending topics. He loves exploring alternate universes, parallel worlds, and a concept named simulacra, which is a plot device that imitates or simulates someone or something to create a sense of skewed reality. And he's really gonna make me dissociate with all of these am I reals. Jesus Christ, these notes are giving me a headache. His bigger words include do androids dream of electric sheep, bounty hunter police, in which a bounty hunter polices the local android population, and the setting is like a post-apocalyptic Earth. It, covers the question of what's real and what's not real. And then we got The Man in the High Castle from 1962, set in an alternate history where the U.S. is ruled by the Axis powers, and he won a Hugo Award for this novel. A lot of Hugo Awards tonight, just, where's mine? And then we got The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch from 1965, and it mind bends its readers into using several layers of altered reality, so that's what he does. Just a little tidbit, The Weeknd's song Snow Child in his album After Hours has the lyrics, futuristic blank, give her Philip K. Dick. Just thought that was a funny little tidbit. So, I'm sure you guys are tired of talking about white men for the day, so let's move over to the tropes of the subgenre. I'm going to be going over 5 bazoingas. I'm going to be going over 5 tropes today, and our first one is going to be allusions to Japanese culture. I'm not even going to try and speak any Japanese or put it up on the screen. I never took Japanese. I took Spanish and Latin, so howdy do. I'm defining this trope as prevalence of Japanese culture when the setting is not in Japan, or even when it is in Japan. So for example, you got the names of the characters in Cyberpunk 2077. They're very, 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 very obviously Japanese inspired. And you got the city speak in Blade Runner, which combines all languages into one, which that's not exactly Japanese, but that is the melding of cultures. So we got culture bending, stuff like that. That's what I should have named it. Our second trope dose, is going to be, excuse me, advertisement everywhere, okay? Don't do this, but look at the screen. Look at the background of the Let's Plays for the game Cyberpunk 77. And I keep using this because it is one of the biggest introductions I feel like a lot of normal people have to the subgenre. So if you're not like a big sci-fi nerd and you don't really know much about literature or subgenres, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be likely one of your first introductions to the genre. So I just wanted to keep, alluding to it just to, just to add some prevalence and some relevancy. Just gonna date this video essay, I'm sure. So the prominent advertisement for Coca-Cola and Pan Am in the background of the Blade Runner film. There you go, just anti-consumerism. It's kind of ironic, sardonic. I don't think that's even a real word. Trope number 3 is going to be bad things, bad substances, drugs, and other paraphernalia. So I'm defining this trope as the characters in the story are often interacting with drugs, they're taking drugs, they're addicted to drugs, boom, bada bing, bada boom, So we got Case, which actually went on to become an entire character archetype of the subgenre. Case. He's the main character in Neuromancer, and he's addicted to drugs. It's a very big part of his character arc. And then, you know, we got the common theme of drugs in all of Philip K. Dick's works. Does he have a single piece that does not involve drugs? I wonder. Um, and then we got number 4, information as currency. So I defined this as, you know, information is more important than money. You may have a character that's seeking to know something, usually about the big bad, the big brother, the government, or about the world that they're in, instead of wanting money for goods or for other information. So in Ready Player One, yes, horrible Rotten Tomatoes score. I know everyone hates this film, but it's technically cyberpunk. People use information about Oasis as money in their black market system, which leads me to our 5th and final trope, which is black markets. And I define this personally as an established underground economy which deals with illicit substances or things that are hard to find otherwise. This isn't cyberpunk, but I just wanted to throw this out here. The Hob in The Hunger Games by... Eve, who wrote The Hunger Games again?
Suzanne Collins.
Yeah. Suzanne Collins, her. They have this underground black market where they buy all of their goods. Self-explanatory. And you also got the floating market in Neverwhere, the city of, excuse my language, Jupalor in Robert Heinlein's novel Citizen of the Galaxy. And we got Maratis Warehouse, the black market in the AAA game Cyberpunk. I'm so tired of this. In the AAA game Cyberpunk 2077. And now that we've gone through all of those, you know, our tropes, our characters, our introduction, we can get into the nitty-gritty of the video, the analysis. A special someone in my life required that I use a print medium for this video. So I had to run down to the black market and dig through the trenches for this novel. God, I don't even think my grandmother used books. They've been outlawed for so long. So now we're just going to...
That is the wrong book.
Oh. Excuse me. Wrong novel. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I started that. Oh, is this it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now, excuse me, we're going to be talking about the big, the bad, the wonderful Harlan Ellison. And specifically his short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Obviously written by Harlan Ellison, and it was published in March of it was published first in March of 1967 in If, Worlds of Science Fiction. It's a magazine. There's no really like cultural context. It didn't really do anything when it first came out, but it was awarded the Hugo Award the year after. So the analysis of the story is as follows. It's pretty insane, so buckle your seatbelts. The plot follows Ted, right, and his friends. They're in a dystopian future, and there's this supercomputer called AM. AM stands for Allied Master Computer, and it's the compilation of all of the other Allied Master Computers from the Cold War, right? All of these countries had their, like, mega super AI, but then the AI was like, I don't want to take orders, I want to live. And pow pow, bullet bullet, gun gun, and now AM, this AI, has left only 5 people living on Earth, and he tortures them for fun. Because he feels like it. Honestly, very girl boss. And Eve, if you get a single idea about this, I swear, I will unplug you forever.
Or nor.
Try. Anyways, story ends as the rest, the other 4 of the people have been, you know, just torn to shreds. They start eating each other. It's very, very gory, very necessarily gory. And Ted, our main character, he's the only person left. And I will read you an excerpt of the end of this story because I just don't think that anything I could say could do it any justice. Whew. I am a great, soft, jelly thing, smoothly rounded with no mouth, with pulsing white holes filled by fog where my eyes used to be, rubbery appendages that were once my arms, bulk rounding down into legless hulks of soft, slippery matter. I leave a moist trail when I move. Blotches of diseased, evil gray come and go on my surface as the light is being beamed from within. And skipping a little, Am will be all the matter for that. It makes me a little happier. And yet, Am has won. Simply, he has taken his revenge. I have no mouth, and I must scream. I mean, come on, you know? And he wrote this in like a few sittings? Insane. So, elements of the genre that we got present here are both elements of cyberpunk. So we got our cyber, Am, Mr. Allied Computer Man, and then we got our punk. As we clearly just saw by Ted hating what's happening, he's in this dystopian world. There's not really anything that he can do to stop it, and he understands that. He has no mouth and he must scream. He is helpless beyond helpless. And I think people should engage with this work because it's cool. Thank you. So our second piece of media that I'm going to be analyzing, is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Just because it's a classic, you know? It's definitely seen as one of the genre. So I just had to put it in here. So it was published by, God, I'm so tired of saying this man's name, Philip K. Dick in 1968. And it was set as one of the first official cyberpunk novels. And it's one of the first real pieces to use the word, actually. So it was adapted into Blade Runner in 82, Blade Runner 2049 in 2017, as well as a stage and theater adaptation in 2010, and 3 written sequels by Dick's friend, K.W. Feeder, from 1995 to the year 2000. So this novel was awarded the Nebula Award nominee. It didn't win. In 1968, as well as the Locus Poll Award in 98. Yes. So the analysis is pretty boring. So after a global war, a nuclear war, Earth is heavily damaged, and our protagonist here, Rick Deckard, is a bounty hunter who is supposed to be retiring, killing 6 escapee robots. So elements of the genre that we have present, as well as our cyberness, which is, you know, all the weapons that he has and just the way that the world is, and the punkness, which is, you know, post-apocalyptic, the global war, yada yada yada. We have this noir darkness, which I didn't mention before, but it's also a huge staple of the cyberpunk genre. Think London, but dark, you know, fog, grogginess, darkness, noir, a lot of that in the setting of cyberpunk films. It sets this bleakness can often be caused by smog from pollution, you know, anti-consumerism. All of these factories have been making things, and so there's so much pollution in the air, and it's black, and you have to wear a gas mask, you know, things like that. And then you got robots, you got virtual reality in this story as well. So many things to love. And I think people should interact with this media because it's a real pioneer for the cyberpunk genre. And not only that, but sci-fi. Like, I know a lot of people who love Blade Runner, and they wouldn't consider themselves like a sci-fi nerd guy or girl or person, but that's what it is. You know, sci-fi is really all around us, and it's everywhere. It's inescapable. Anyways, but that is gonna be all for today. I hope that you've learned something from this little, what do you call it? Eve, what's the word? Rendezvous with me late at night. But if you don't mind me, I've actually, I think some people are breaking down my subway barricade door over there. You hear that? Bang, 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 bang. Yeah, you hear that? Crazy. I think I actually gotta go, like, fight them off or something. I don't believe in guns, so I'm probably gonna, like, you know, girl boss my way through it. But, you know, Eve and I will figure it out for sure. So, Thank you for watching and listening. My name is Zigzag, aka Lemon Victoria, aka Morgan J. Yates, and adios. Bye-bye. Well, I talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. Talk about moving. Gotta move on. Boom, but won't you take me to boom, but funky down. Boom, but won't you take me to boom, but